Welcome back to Capitol Tonight. I'm Susan Arbetter. As we have been reporting, neither tenants nor landlords are feeling positive about the state's Rent Relief Act. This is the fund that had $100 million in it that needs to be spent by the end of the year. There is still $60 million that has not been allocated. Another issue is that the Tenant Safe Harbor Act is not working as an eviction moratorium, according to tenant advocates. But there is legislation that could replace it, make it stronger. It's sponsored by Senator Zellnor Myrie. It's called the Emergency Housing Stability and Tenant Displacement Prevention Act. And Senator Myrie joins me now with some details. Senator, welcome back.
Good to be with you, Susan.
That is quite a mouthful. What does it do?
So this bill would provide clarity on whether or not a tenant can be evicted. Part of the problem that we've seen with the collection of moratoria, which includes the Safe Harbor Act, but also a federal moratorium and moratorium proposed by the governor, is that it has differing standards. And judges have been interpreting it differently. They have different expiration dates. This bill would say there is a blanket moratorium for residential tenants, a pause on mortgage foreclosures, and also protection for commercial tenants as well.
So this is sort of like a smorgasbord of everything that people have been asking for. Quickly, are there any plans for the legislature to return to Albany to pass this bill and perhaps some others?
Well, I think there's certainly consensus in the legislature that something needs to be done on the evictions front. You know, a lot of times we are accused of being hyperbolic in talking about the circumstances that our constituents face. But let's be clear, the eviction crisis is a matter of life and death. Studies have shown that post-evictions, COVID cases have risen, and those have subsequently left people to lose their lives. And so I'm hoping that this is something that we can take up in short order.
Now, there are people who are saying that, you know, that's great. You're absolutely right. We need an eviction moratorium. But the rent is going to come due at some point, and it's just going to keep compounding unless there's some kind of rent relief. And this is what your bill would provide, yes?
So we would give us, I think our bill would provide some time for us to see whether the federal government will come through and provide rent relief for both property owners and for tenants. As you said, Susan, the rent bills that are owed will not be paid until there is some sort of relief. And for tenants and landlords who have suffered during this economic downturn, the only option they have is relief from the federal government. Pausing evictions will give us time to figure that out, and also will help tenants stay safe during this pandemic.
Which is so critically important. Now, landlord groups told me last week that they would oppose any bill that would cancel rent for tenants without a complete dollar-for-dollar offset for landlords. What is your response to that?
Well, I think the property owners are, of course, entitled to feel that they need certain relief. Certainly, you know, tenants feel differently on that front. And the truth is the tenants don't have the money to pay. Evictions are not the solution. And drawing red lines in public perhaps isn't the solution as well. I think there are folks who like to pit these two groups together. And in this pandemic, landlords and tenants are both suffering. There are big banks, mortgage industry, the private equity industry that has done very well during this pandemic. And there's an opportunity for landlords and tenants to band together and say, let's get the money.
Hope that we can do that. Now, do you have any update for us on the rent relief fund that needs to be spent by the end of the year, and which the governor said he would sign an executive order to broaden?
My understanding is that the governor's office is working on trying to get this money out the door. The legislature passed this relief with the hopes that it would get to the people that needed it the most. And so I hope that we will continue to fight for that and that the money will trickle down to the folks that need it.
So I wanted to pivot for a moment. You're the chair of the Elections Committee in the state Senate, and I'm wondering if you have any comment on NY22. This is the House seat that's still undecided between Claudia Tenney and Anthony Brindisi in the Mohawk Valley.
I think we can imagine a scenario in which the House majority was dependent on the outcome of this race. and what a center of scandal New York would be if that were the situation. It's the same situation we see with the counting of absentee ballots. If we were a swing state, we would be the source of national scandal. And so I think those problems in NY22, along with what we've seen across the state, really should motivate the legislature to come back to elections and demonstrate that we're hearing the voters and delivering a world-class democracy for them. As chair of the Senate Elections Committee, I fully intend to hold hearings next session so that we can determine how to fix what in many instances can be a broken system.
I think a lot of people are very happy to hear you say that. We have been speaking with the chair of the Senate Elections Committee, Zellnor Myrie. It's great to see you. If I don't talk to you again, have a good holiday.
Happy holidays, and always great to be with you.